Today's episode, guys, we're going to be talking about Nova Terra, the secret of Galeeza. A big shout out to Garland Redvine for reaching out to me on Instagram to, let me know about his book that he has written. And so I think if you have Kindle Unlimited, you could have got it for free, a digital version, but only $10 for the physical copy. So I went ahead and got that. And yeah, we're going to talk about in today's episode what I liked and, what I didn't like. And yeah. Novatera is a sci fantasy series. That is the genre I would like to put it under. This is because it has elements of science fiction with robots shooting lizards, but we also have elements of fantasy. So we have characters casting spells, we have dragons, mythical creatures. Also, the sort of world building that happens around this world gives me the sort of feel of like an epic fantasy story because we have these plenty of countries with their own unique sort of cultures, so that gives it the fantasy and sci fantasy. In this story, we follow our main character named Narpaz. He is a war veteran, a blade mage, so sort of like a battle mage, and he's from the land of Yabardia. They had recently, you know, before the story took place, they were part of a war that didn't go too favorably for them, and so he's sort of painted a negative light as someone in that war, and they lost, and so he has to suffer the consequences that come with that. So he's sort of an outcast. He just goes from country to country, sort of just hanging out until he runs to a fortune teller, and then his whole life changes. That's as far as I'll go for that. Before I get into like territory, which I am about to, I put a spoiler free review on Instagram if you guys want to follow me there. It's, I believe, bookman underscore 445. There, I left like I mentioned, a spoiler free review of what I thought of Nova Terra. So if you want to check that out, go ahead. But we're going to go a little bit more into detail on what I was trying to get at with that review in this video. So if you'd like, and you don't want spoiler, or you are okay with spoilers, then continue watching the video and let's get into it. In the same way that I prefaced the review on Instagram, I think that Nova Terra, the Seer of Galeeza, would be a great young adult, middle grade sort of fantasy sci-fi story. I talked about on Instagram how I think the like seventh, sixth, eighth grade version of myself would have really loved this story. I think a lot of that's due to the very fast pace of the story, and there's a lot of action. So, of course, I would have been into that as a kid. I don't know specifically who the author is trying to like market this book towards, but I think there's a very good market for a younger audience for this book. I mean, just look at that cover. I mean, if you saw it at the book fair, I would probably spend my mom's $5 to buy it. Nova Terror really puts the fantasy into fantasy, and I enjoy books that do that because I mean, at the end of the day, the reason I read sci-fi fantasy is for the escapism. And we have tons of different creatures, different lands with different cultures, and maybe those could have been elaborated upon, or maybe framed in a different way to make them come across more natural. But nevertheless, they're still there, and I love that about the story. Sort of the grand epic fantasy ness to it. I really did enjoy that. Um, I did like the pace, the fast, quick pace. It's a pretty slim, short book, and so I got through it about 2 3 days. Uh, about the whole second half of the book, I think I read in one sitting. I just sort of sat down and locked in and read it. There were some instances of grammatical errors in the book, whether that be switching from present and past tense, or just the syntax of a sentence not being structured correctly. But this is a self-published book, and so with self-published novels, I mean that's a huge undertaking to take by yourself. So some of those things slipping through is understandable. Also, I may be wrong, but I do believe this is the author's first book. So rarely does someone strike gold with the first book. That's not to say this book is you know bad. I still found myself enjoying it. But most first books aren't the author's best work, of course, because you only get better with time. I mean, one piece of writing advice I think would do the story a ton of justice would be to show more than tell. I think we have the characters, the outlines of some great characters here, like with Narpaz and Green Star. These are characters that the ideas of them are great, and they're still pretty good characters in the story. But if there's a way that we could maybe get to their past, get to their character, and more using more indirect characterization instead of direct characterization. For example, Narpaz, suffers with PTSD because he was in a war. So I wonder if maybe there's a way that we could portray that PTSD through a physical telling way instead or showing way instead of telling. There's a few moments where loud noises will go off, and Garland and Redvine will tell us like the noises are bothering him from the war. But maybe I think it'd be okay if you didn't even tell us that, if you just told us his reaction to it, and then we could sort of put the pieces together by ourselves. This would help with world building too, instead of telling us all these things about these nations. Maybe just sort of let those realizations about the nations and their cultures come naturally through dialogue or descriptions of scenery, which I believe Garland Redvine does a really good job of setting up scenes and like set pieces in the stories. But I think that would also help the world building too. Last thing I want to touch on in this video is the narrative structure. I wonder, it sort of has a video game feel to it where you complete this stage and you go to the next stage, and then you complete that, and you go to the next stage and you complete that. And I think if there's a way that maybe the narrative could be framed differently, it could maybe feel a little bit less like that. Um, because it does feel like at times that Narpaz goes here, he kills this monster, and then he goes here, he has to help these people kill these monsters, and then he goes here. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I still enjoyed reading the story. I wonder maybe if there's a way that we could frame this differently to where it feels less repetitive. Instead of him going boom, 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 it feels more just like a natural story unfolding. But like I said, I think maybe you could leave it how it is and have that sort of level tier to level to level. And I think that young kids reading would really enjoy that sort of narrative structure that's pretty easy to follow. Um, so, yeah, like I've been talking about, I think a younger audience, this book would be a really big hit. That'll be it for this video, guys, though. Thank you for watching. If you feel so inclined to, subscribe or like. And yeah, I'm currently in the middle of reading a couple books, so hopefully we can get a review out soon. If not, I know I said I would upload on Fridays, um, but that didn't happen. But I'm going to try my best to at least try to get something out at least once a week. I have been at the beach and I'm going again here soon with my partner. So I might be a little late in the uploads as well. And then once I go back to school, I'll have to do student teaching while working a job, which means I'll also be uploading less. But just stick around though, because we're going to be doing more book reviews. I'm trying to stay motivated and get them out. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.